what is your, last question, and then we'll get to the audience. What's your goal? Become a $1 trillion company?
No.
Be very,
I
very
don't.
secretive? Create your own CIA, AIA?
I just want to build great products. I want to build great products. And that's not, there's not a specific revenue goal or I think if
and keep them really secret until you're ready to say something.
There you go.
Yeah.
I think if we do that the other things follow. I think companies that get sort of confused and think their goal is revenue or a certain profit or whatever, or a stock price of something, those things you can't focus on and make better. You have to focus on the things that lead to those. And for us, that's all about great products. And so all of our energies are on that, not the result of that.
In introducing these products, there was the bow to the past, as I suggested. The arena where you had it is where Steve introduced 30 years ago the Macintosh. When you introduced the watch, you famously said one more thing, words that Steve had used. Where is Steve in all this?
Well, he's in my heart, and he is deep in Apple's DNA. His spirit will always be the foundation of the company. I literally think about him every day. His office is still left as it was.
On the 4th floor?
On the 4th floor. His name is still on the door. And we still, if you think about the things that Steve stood for at a macro level, he stood for innovation. He stood for the simple, not the complex. He knew that Apple should only enter areas where we can control the primary technology. All of these things are still deep in our company. There's still things that we very much believe. The strive for perfection, for being the best, for only doing the best products, for staying focused. The fact that despite this table being so small that you and I are sitting at, you could put every Apple product on it, every single one that we ship today, and yet this year our revenues will be, approximately 180 billion. There's probably no other company on the face of the earth that could say that. Most companies begin to do larger and larger and larger portfolios because it's so easy to add, it's hard to edit, it's hard to stay focused, and yet we know we'll only do our best work if we stay focused. And so, the hardest decisions we make are all the things not to work on, frankly. Because there's lots of things we'd like to work on that we have interest in, but we know that we can't do everything great.
Is the new chapter in Apple also defined by the fact that you're moving away from just being essentially a hardware company?
I wouldn't say that we were never just a hardware company, and so I would define that a little differently.
But a significant part of your revenue comes from the iPhone, for example.
But a significant part of the iPhone is the software and the services.
Right.
It's just that we don't split out the price between the hardware and the software and the services.
It's all part of your own ecosystem.
It's part of our own ecosystem, and we do that because it all works together. It just works when you do it that way. When you split the two, you wind up with, think about what happened in the PC area. When you had a Windows and a separate OEM that was doing hardware and then somebody else that was doing apps, and you have a problem, you're pulling your hair out, you call the help desk, and the help desk tells you to call another help desk, and that help desk tells you to call somebody else, and the other guy doesn't even have a help desk. So we recognized early on that these kind of devices, you really need to have a womb-to-tomb view of them for the customer's sake. And so if somebody calls us, it's our problem. We're not passing the buck. And so I think you get a much better customer experience.
But do you miss opportunity to take advantage of a whole group of people because...
Well, look at our ecosystem, Charlie. I mean, we've got 9 million registered developers. And so we're not having a problem getting people to develop for our platform. If you were at our conference in June in San Francisco, there's developers there from almost every country in the world, and they're writing for iOS.
So you have all the innovation, access to all the innovation.
We have incredible access to innovation. And we also view it and treat it, it's a privilege to work with the developers we do. And so we treat them like it's a privilege. And from their point of view, they get to design something from a company that has over 90% of their customers on one version of the operating system. So we're not fragmented like Android is, right? We'll release iOS 8 next week. And right now, iOS 7, the one that we just released a year ago, 92% of our customers are running iOS 7. If you looked at a comparable number for Android, it's very low. It's extremely low. If you looked at a comparable number for Windows on the PC side, very low. And so you can really write software to the latest, or write your app to the latest software versus spending your time on all of these versions and iterations and so forth.
I have a question. You control a lot of the products and services you offer, but one of them that you don't, which everything from your Retina display graphics to HD video to Siri uses more and more of, is bandwidth. And I was wondering, is that something, you know, as the very few companies that control all the bandwidth seek to kind of figure out new ways to make more money off of that, charge people more for it, is that something you think that you need to either have an ownership stake in, more control than you currently have, or is it even regulated fairly right now?
Yeah, a lot of questions in that. Let me try to answer the heart of it. Do I think we need to own a carrier or the pipe? No, I don't think we need to do that. If you look at Apple's business, the vast majority of our business now is outside the U.S. And so owning something just in the U.S. would not have great value in the total worldwide, our worldwide footprint. Plus, I really think the guys that have it know a lot more than we do about this. This is their area of expertise, and we've tried to be honest about things where we can contribute and places where we can't. And I want to make great devices and use some of the bandwidth. But I don't really feel like we have to own the pipe to do that. I think we can partner with the pipe owner. Hi.
Hi, I'm Joanna Stern from ABC News, and I wanted to ask you about Ping. Firstly, what really happened to it? And secondly, is that the last time we really are going to see Apple get into that social space? Are you leaving it up to other companies now?
I don't think we have to. Apple doesn't have to own a social network, if that's the heart of your question. But does Apple need to be social? Yes. But the ways that we express that today are integrating Twitter into iOS. And you'll see us integrate Twitter into the Mac OS as we introduce Mountain Lion. It's some people think of iMessage as social, right? And so we've done a very elegant solution there, if you're familiar with iMessage. And you'll see more things along that in the future. Game Center is a social activity because you're picking someone else to play a game against, or multiple players or whatever. And so things like this make our devices even more useful to people, and we'll do things like that. But that to me doesn't mean at all that Apple needs to own a social network.
But you do. You have Ping.
Ping. So what happened to Ping?
Oh, I was
Why did
carefully,
it get
if you
started?
notice, Walt, I was carefully avoiding that.
I did notice.
And I
Why
can tell
jumped
that
in.
you wouldn't let me. So,
Well, you're rather sly, but what happened to
My
Ping?
you know, I think,
Hello? Yeah, my mic is off.
you know, we tried Ping, and I think the customer voted and said, you know, this isn't something that I want to put a lot of energy into.
So are you going to kill it? Because last time I checked, I think it's still there.
Some customers love it. It's just there's not a huge number that do. And so, will we kill it? I don't know. I'll look at it.
And as long as they email you on an every other day basis, you'll keep it for a while. Huh?
Well, I don't want to say that. I don't want to say that. No,
You could totally sell it to Google Plus, but let's go.
Office of Martin Luther King and a picture of Robert F. Kennedy. Robert F. Kennedy, after his brother's assassination, someone said, the difficulty for him will he'll have no RFK, as he was to his brother Jack. So I might ask the question, do you have a Tim as you were Tim to Steve?
I think each person, if you're a CEO, the most important thing is to me, is to pick people around you that aren't like you, that complement you, because you want to build a puzzle. You don't want to stack chiclets up and have everyone be the same. And so I believe in diversity with a capital D. And that's diversity in thought and diversity in any way that you want to measure it. And so the people that surrounded me are not like me. They have skills that I don't have. I may have some that they don't have. What we do as a team collectively are able to do some incredible things. And it's because we collaborate, and I see one of my key things in life is to make sure that we collaborate at an incredible level, because we run the company functionally. We're not like the typical big company that has N number of divisions and N number of P&Ls. Everybody is a functional expert, and then we collectively, to get things done, we work together as a team, because the work really happens horizontally in our company, not vertically. Products are horizontal. It takes hardware plus software plus services to make a killer product. And so all of these people, if you were to line us up and talk to everyone, you know several of them, we're all different. And that's the power of it, is that we're not trying to put everyone through a car wash and so they look alike, talk alike, think alike at the end of the day. We argue and debate. If you were to come in our executive team meetings on Mondays, you'd hear a lot of discussion and debate about something. We don't always agree on everything. But we have great respect for one another, and we trust one another, and we complement one another, and that makes it all work.
All the successes you have pointed to, when you do something that's not as much of a success, and I'm obviously thinking of maps, and you look at it, what did you do wrong?
Oh, we screwed up. To put it bluntly, there are many screw-ups in that one. There's just not one. There's many, and we've learned and corrected and are continuing to invest in maps, because our fundamental premise that maps were really key to Apple is the same as when we made that call many years ago. But we did screw up on the release. It should not have happened like it did. It shouldn't have come out. And you know, sometimes when you're running fast, you slip and you fall. And I think the best thing you can do is get back up and say, I'm sorry. And you try to remedy the situation, and you work like hell to make the product right. If you're probably never making a mistake, you're probably not doing enough.